People love pleasant surprises. A gift, good news, an unexpected opportunity, a lucky coincidence. All of these immediately produce warmth, gratitude, and excitement. But when the surprise is unpleasant, the reaction usually flips in the opposite direction. Instead of joy, there is anger. Instead of openness, denial. Instead of curiosity, stress, exhaustion, and sometimes even depression. And that reveals something important. Very often, what destroys us is not only the event itself, but our interpretation of it. Life is full of things we do not control. Sudden breakdowns, unpleasant encounters, delays, failures, misunderstandings, losses, disappointments. All of this belongs to reality. We cannot predict every detail. We cannot organize life so perfectly that nothing ever goes wrong. That fantasy is childish. Life has always included surprise, and surprise is often inconvenient. But while we cannot control every event, we can work on something else. We can train our reaction. That is the real point. This is not about pretending that pain is pleasure or that every problem is secretly wonderful. That kind of sugary positivity is usually dishonest and useless. If something is bad, then yes, it is bad. If it hurts, then it hurts. If it is difficult, then it is difficult. The task is not to lie to yourself. The task is to reinterpret the event in a way that does not make it heavier than it already is. That is a completely different discipline. A car breaks down. One reaction says, "Perfect. My day is ruined. Everything is terrible. Why does this always happen to me?" Another reaction says, "All right, annoying, yes. But now I'll learn one more thing about how this machine works, what part failed, and how to deal with it next time." The event remains unpleasant, but the second reaction converts frustration into knowledge. You meet an unpleasant person. One reaction says, "People are disgusting. I hate everyone. This day is ruined." Another says, "Good. Useful information. Now I know exactly the kind of person I do not want in my circle." Again, the event does not become pleasant, but it becomes useful. This is the essence of transformation of reaction. It is not denial, it is mental discipline. Ancient philosophy understood this very well. The Stoics repeatedly argued that events themselves do not immediately destroy us. Judgments about events do much of that work. A problem appears, and then the mind adds narrative. Injustice, insult, catastrophe, humiliation, doom. The original event may be manageable. The interpretation turns it into emotional chaos. That is why reprogramming reaction matters so much. A person who trains this skill gradually becomes harder to break. Not because life gets easier, but because life stops automatically dictating emotional collapse. Instead of reacting mechanically, the person inserts a pause. In that pause, a new possibility appears. What is this event teaching? What exactly happened, and what am I adding to it? What can I learn? What should I adjust? What kind of person do I want to be in response? These questions restore agency. Without them, we become slaves of impulse. Every inconvenience becomes personal offense. Every difficulty becomes a reason to complain. Every unpleasant surprise becomes proof that life is hostile. With them, something changes. The world stays unpredictable, but the inner response becomes more structured. This is especially important because repeated negative reaction gradually shapes character. A person who constantly reacts with resentment, outrage, or helplessness eventually becomes the sort of person for whom every event confirms the same story. Life is against me. People are unbearable. Nothing works. The nervous system gets trained into chronic irritation. But reaction can be trained in the opposite direction too. A person can build a habit of extracting meaning rather than multiplying suffering. They can learn to see breakdown as information, conflict as clarification, delay as a test of patience, discomfort as training, and failure as feedback. This does not make them cold, it makes them resilient. The modern world encourages the opposite. It amplifies emotional immediacy. Everything invites instant reaction. Outrage first, interpretation later, if ever. But maturity begins where reaction slows down enough for thought to enter. The strongest people are not those who never feel anger or frustration. They are those who do not let first emotion become final truth. This is why transformation of reaction is so powerful. It changes not only mood, but identity. A person who learns to reinterpret unpleasant experience stops seeing themselves as a passive victim of random events. They begin to see themselves as someone capable of turning life into material, for wisdom, for strength, for clarity, for refinement. Even pain becomes usable. Not romantic, not beautiful, but usable.